right, everybody. Bob Chick with MD. We're here with David Bay and Peter McGuff. We are at the Tampa Pro once again, I believe our 8th year here at this competition. So congratulations to Tim and his entire staff for doing a great job once again, Peter. We're back at the Hyatt, our old stomping grounds here. And it looks like we got another blockbuster lineup here. 200-plus pros in attendance, plus, of course, the NPC.
Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a weekend. And the great thing about this contest is I always think it's got such a great atmosphere down to Tim Gardner. It's a family feel, it's grassroots. And the athletes always turn out in force for him, pros and amateurs.
Sure do. Well, like I said, 220, I believe, was the number last year. So he didn't quite get that this year. That actually set a record. At this point, Tim's only beaten his own records. But still, 200-plus is pretty good on any docket, David.
Yeah, no, this is one of the really good shows that we see, throughout the contest season. And as Peter had said, Tim does a great job with it. All his productions throughout the course of the year are good. With this one down in Florida, a lot of excitement with this show being as close as it is to the Olympia. You get people looking for last-minute qualifications, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, speaking of the Olympia, Peter, only about 8 weeks to go to the Olympia. Obviously, 5 weeks. Oh, wow. 6 weeks. All right, we got a middle ground at 6. I hear 6 is the winning number. 6 weeks to go before Joe Weider's 51st being celebrated again, once again, of course, in Las Vegas, Nevada. So Olympia berths are getting very short in demand. We've got Tampa that we're here at now. We got Atlantic City coming up, San Antonio, I believe, and I believe Sacramento. So only 4 shows left. Let's go down to that men's open, Peter. How are we looking?
Well, I mean, Fouad Abiad, he's already qualified. He's won 2 pro shows this year. I mean, he's improved this year. I mean, he's probably got to be the front runner based on momentum. I sort of wonder why he's doing it. And then I think, well, maybe he's doing it because he wants to figure out how to really, nail down contest condition. The best way to get into contest condition is to keep doing it. It's unusual for somebody to qualify and then do something 6 weeks out or whatever it is.
Let me ask you this, Peter. Good move or bad move on Fouad? Now, he's got 2 wins. Like you say, he's already qualified. We're only 6 weeks out. Some people would actually take the opposite. We'll get David's take on that in a second. But your opinion, good move or bad move?
I think it would have been better to maybe, drop out and save it all for the Olympia, but maybe he sees that he can pick up another check, and maybe he needs to keep doing it. Maybe he's not been absolutely 100% the last 2 shows, so maybe he's trying something different. And you only know if it works if you try it on the day. You can't practice these sort of things.
Well, that's going to be his 3rd show, though, this year, David. Like you say, only 6 weeks out. Give me your opinion on that. Now, good move coming in off of 2 wins. Does it give him a little momentum if he wins? And if he loses, does it drop him back off the radar chart a little bit?
The shows that he's done so far this year haven't necessarily, not to take anything away from Fouad, they haven't been the most stacked shows. So I think he'll do well here this weekend. As far as if he doesn't place first, or if he does, I don't think he's gaining or losing a lot of momentum one way or another, unless we were to see him drop off really far, in which case, yeah, not a good move losing that much momentum. But with what we've seen of him at his last couple shows, especially just in Vancouver, I think he'll do well. With some guys, I think it's just, we take for granted that they've been in the game so long that they just know what works. But sometimes, you work with a new coach, you get a little bit older, you try a different diet. Tweaking things last minute, sometimes doing an extra show and maybe making some corrections from something that didn't work from the previous show is exactly what they need. On the flip side, some guys, bodies get a little bit burnt out if they try peaking too many times. So, I think you can argue both sides of that coin as to whether it's a good or a bad move for Fouad at this point.
All right, Peter, speaking of the veterans, Fouad, of course, being one of them, Johnny Jackson, a name also on that list, also needs a win here. Probably not, well, it could be enough points, obviously, to keep him in the race. I think he's in the mix somewhere in the points, but I'm sure he's looking for a win.
Yeah, the only way he's going to, really nail down Olympia place is to win. He's in the points there, but with 3 or 4 shows to go, who knows who's going to come into the late ones, and the strategy comes into it there with the points. I mean, Johnny, he's probably got the best upper body in the show, although Max Charles is in it. But obviously the problem has always been his legs have never matched up to that. But he's won pro shows before, so this isn't beyond him in this field.
We got some veterans. We also got some rookies coming in there, and I see a big man, Paulo Almeida. Now, a lot of people know him, obviously, from the internet. He's been making quite a splash. Finally got his pro card, but that's one big boy out there.
Yeah, I mean, it'll come down to, can he get into shape? I mean, he looks very impressive, but can he get the contest condition? That's what it's all going to come down to.
Well, we're going to certainly see that. And first time, I believe this is his first pro show. Is that correct, David? Second pro show. So you know what? Not a bad move on his part. I mean, he's kind of in a nothing to lose scenario, but getting his feet wet on a pro stage, maybe getting that condition down, like Peter says. He's got all the muscle in the world, but obviously we got to see that down. We also see that with guys like a Keem Williams, who's got all kinds of beef. And who was the other one? Well, Max Charles. That was the other guy I was thinking about. And Mike Lockett we'll get into in a second. But those three guys that I just mentioned, all the muscle in the world, lots of bulk, lots of beef. But that conditioning on the pro stage, you got to have it.
Yeah, and let's not forget about Joel Thomas. I mean, Joel's packing a ton of muscle. We saw him win his pro card at Nationals a few years ago. The one thing that I've been saying lately to the guys and saying on the boards is that these judges, week in and week out, see the biggest guys in the whole world. These guys, and you get guys who I'm going to go out full, or I'm going to go out and sacrifice that for conditioning. And it's like at this point, unless your name is Rami or Kai Green or Marcus Rule or whatever, this judging panel just isn't going to be that impressed coming out big if you're not in shape. And really what it comes
they're all big.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, these guys are all huge. I mean, Keem Williams, that much bigger than some of the other guys. But it's the first place finishes, the second place finishes, even top 3, 4, they're just not going to come if these guys aren't showing up in good shape.
Peter, I want to focus on Mike Lockett for a second. Now, we saw him come in this year. I called his last show, and man, he was impressive. Lots of muscle, not the most genetically gifted when it comes to shape and that type of thing. He's a little up and down. Obviously, could use a little bit of width. But, man, he's got some muscle, boy, that nobody else has on that stage.
Yeah, he's got a muscle fiber composition which is almost unique in terms of the graininess and the deepness of it. I wouldn't say it's similar to Phil Heath, but it's like Phil Heath is different, right, and Michael Lockett is different. And he's got it all. He needs a bit of width. There's an imbalance in the legs. Yeah. But the one thing I'd like to see him do is to be more aggressive. He's got this great physique. Emote, go out there, get in people's faces. He's a very polite gentleman. And it's not a place to be polite on a bodybuilding stage. You've got to get in there and plant into the judges. I'm the winner. I'm the favorite. Give it to me now.
Absolutely. Well, give me a few other names in there, Peter. Now, I'm looking down the list. Robert Petrakovich from Poland. A guy that doesn't get a whole lot of press out there, but you know what? Somehow he seems to find his way into the Olympia, and he has in the past a good physique. Again, not the most genetically gifted when it comes to the X frame and all that kind of stuff, but certainly a name that you can't pretty much just count out either.
No, because if he can get into condition, he's done it before. He's won pro shows, at least one, and if any of these guys are slipping, he can overtake them based on condition. His structure's not the greatest, but if they're not on and he's on, he'll be up there.
David, is this a good shot for one of the newer guys or one of the more unheralded guys to make a statement? I mean, it's pretty wide open when it comes to the top 5. Obviously, a win gets you in the Olympia. Top 5 is going to give you points, but Grigori, Atoyan, Joel Thomas making his debut, I believe. Are these guys that can find their way into the top 5?
I think they can. I mean, again, it all comes down to conditioning. If I have to pick a show favorite right now, I'm going with Max Charles. From what I've seen at the last couple shows, the way he looked at New York, his legs aren't quite as big as his upper body. I think you're going to see probably Max and Fouad locking down 1 and 2 spots. But it's hard to say. Michael Lockett, Robert. So, when you start getting into the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th place, I think they're wide open. So I don't think you can count out even some of the lesser known guys on the list. I don't think you can count them out if some of the guys with bigger names start slipping as far as conditioning go.
David, your pick for the win.
Max Charles.
Peter, your pick for the dark horse, the upset.
Well, I don't know if there's a dark horse as such. I mean, Lockett can come through if he nails it down. Almeida if he's in shape, but we've seen a lot of big guys who can't do it. I mean, I'd agree with David. I was asked last night by Steve Blackman who would I think is going to win, and I hadn't really thought, because it's a crapshoot, isn't it? Anybody could win. But if I had to say, okay, I'll put money on it, I'd say Max. Because I think he's getting better. He's making progress. His legs. We've seen some shots in the gym just recently. I'm not saying it's Tom Platz, but they're a lot better than they were, and that's all he needs to come up. That upper body is just ridiculous.
I'll give you my dark horse pick, and it's a Keem Williams. I tell you what, I've seen this guy in Dallas. He's big, man, but he's got nice proportions, small waist, conditioning so far. But I tell you what, if this guy can dial it down a notch or two, that's my dark horse pick. He could beat everybody in that lineup. He's got all the muscle in the world. He's got good shape, good proportion, good separation. Just needs to get that skin a little bit thinner. So we'll see how my man Akeem does in this one. If not, you're going to look for your front runners, Fouad Abiad, of course, and Johnny Jackson probably up in there in that mix, I would guess, in your top 2. Peter, let's get into the 212, also well represented here now. we haven't seen a really good lineup in a few shows, but this one looks like it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, there's what is it? There's 16 in this, and you know, the guy that stands out is Alaguste. You know, I mean, he had a great 2012, won 3 pro shows, 5th in the 212 showdown. Wasn't so good in 2013, but he was dealing with injury. He had to have surgery. I believe it was pec and his knee. You know, so seeing some shots of Miller in the week, I mean, he's got tremendous shape and separation. If he comes in condition and full, you know, he could be very hard to beat.
Yeah, Alaguste is definitely going to be a front runner, I would think, even though we haven't seen him on stage in a while, David. Plus, he's got the hometown favorite. He's originally from Haiti, but his family's all from right here in Tampa. So he's always got, 50, 75 people out in that audience cheering him on. But to me, I'm with Peter. I think he's in the driver's seat at this one here. I don't see a lot of other big names on that list. We got some other newer names that we'll get into in a second. Your thoughts on Al?
Yeah, I definitely think Al's going to be your front runner for this show. Some progress pictures that we've seen, which, as you guys know, don't always translate to quality on stage. He's looking pretty good. Like you said, a hometown guy. A lot of 212 shows for the year. He decided to pick the one that was closest to home. Obviously, logistically, that always makes sense. But you look at the rest of the lineup, and it's a neat show, and and we always talk about, well, this show's stacked or this show's not stacked. And one of the things we've discussed is sometimes the shows where you don't have a lot of big names become the most interesting, because it really becomes an opportunity for one of these guys to step up, really nail it, and place in the top 5, top 3, and kind of get their name out there. And I think there's a really good mix of guys that could possibly do it here this weekend.
Raul Carrasco, another name that stands out to me, Peter, perennial top 5 guy, certainly. You can't count him out for the win. Of course, he's always been in the hunt, but definitely a guy that can earn himself some good points on the way to that 212 Olympia in Vegas, of course. There's an old name, Craig Licker. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Peter, now you're probably going to know the exact year, but didn't he get his pro card in like 94 or somewhere around there?
95, 94. From Massachusetts, I remember we did a big thing on him.
That's right.
I saw him weigh in, and I didn't recognize him. The Craig Licker,
It's been a few years now.
But I don't know how long he's been out. I mean, yeah, he was a middleweight, and he entered a few pro shows late 90s, and then that was it. So he's back again.
It's 20 years ago. I mean, that's quite the stretch. Speaking of quite the stretch, John Meadows. Now, speaking of your veterans out there, now John, as we all know, great guy. He's one of the best guys in the sport, and I really like John. Respect him. He works with a lot of the guys, obviously, in their prep. He actually worked with a few of the guys that he was competing against in the last show, which is kind of cool. But he's actually throwing his name in the mix here now. He finally got his pro card after many, many years of trying. Good for him, and I'd like to see him on a pro stage here.
Yeah, you know a bit about struggling to get a pro card, don't you?
Yes, I do. Yes, and thanks for bringing that up again, Peter.
It's to your credit that you battled on that long and got it.
Off the beaten record, because we didn't have you in Vegas, but how about my man Blair Moan? He had 12 years, so just behind me in that, and he finally got his pro card at the USA's. But back to the 212s, a few other names on the list I see, but I'm not really seeing anybody that's really standing out to me. I mean, after first and second, this thing's wide open, and Boya Edwards certainly can be in that winner's spot. You can't count him out.
No, definitely. I mean, Boyer is another one that you're just waiting for him to nail it. But going back to John Meadows, I mean, there's a guy that's seriously ill quite a few years ago, and I mean, if it comes to graininess, he'll probably be the winner. He's just got that look about him. Sure. To me, he's the working man's bodybuilder. The genetics are not the best, but he's battled. He's old school. He puts the work in. You can see it in his physique. You can see the reps. You can see the dieting. It's not artificially enhanced in any way. There, I've said it.
Yates and Gasperi would be proud, Peter.
Definitely. So, who knows? He got 5th in Vancouver. I wasn't there, but I thought he might have placed higher. But he'll
respectable,
he'll
though.
be competitive.
And I'm sure he was very pleased with the 5th place finish in his first pro show, and obviously a better lineup here. So we'll keep our eyes on John and wish him the best for that 212. Speaking of classes, Peter, we are not lacking in classes. I think they pretty much got everything being represented here. So we're going to go down the line briefly in that. Peter, what do we got there? That's just the open. Actually, you got to go to our resident women's expert, David Bay. He's got it all right up here, locked up nice and tight.
So, if you want to talk about women, I'll talk about women. But
No, we got to talk about them on stage, Peter. Not your old dates and the good old days. But all right, Peter, let's get right into women's physique. This is an easy one. Now, first of all the classes are loaded. They all got 20 to 36 competitors in them. So the Tampa, which is traditionally a very large show, obviously, as we mentioned, with over 200 pros being represented well here. I was looking at the women's physique rundown, and I gotta give it to my girl Mindy O'Brien from Canada. I gotta put her in that circle of they got to come after her and beat her to get at that winner's circle.
I like Mindy for a top 3, but I think your second place finisher from Chicago, Sharonica Henton.
Sharonica was excellent too.
She's going to be my pick for the win. Looking at that lineup in women's physique, but again, it's been over a month since Chicago, so a lot of things can change.
Sure can. All right, let's get into the other events as we have it. Women's bikini. Your expertise, David. What do we got? Again, another loaded lineup. 20-something girls, I believe, on the stage. I got to go with my girl, Bianca Berry.
Yeah, the bikini is going to be an interesting lineup because we have 2 girls that jump out when I look at the list as favorites, Stephanie Maho and
Mahoy. She ain't Maho.
Mahoy and Bianca Berry. But we also have 2 newcomers. The girl who won the Junior Nationals, Taylor Jordan, looks absolutely fantastic.
And the USA winners here.
The USA winner, Tiffany Urea. To me, she is a girl who can come in first show in a lineup of 30, 35 girls and place top 5. She looked absolutely fantastic at the USA's. Won the overall, hands down, in my opinion. And I think she's somebody who can make an instant impact in the IFBB. So if I was a betting person, I'd say top 3, top 5 for Tiffany.
You know what? I ain't going to disagree with that. Peter, I'm sure you agree with all that assessment.
Yes, I do. I think. The bikini girls. I mean, you look at 30 of them, and it's like, I don't know. It's like a box of chocolates. After the first 10, you satiated.
You just got a 30-way tie for first out there. He's like, I don't know. She looks good to me. So
they all look good. It's very difficult. I mean, I think they deplete too much. They're forced to deplete, and I think they should just be a bit fuller and more voluptuous. But bucket of water, anybody?
I agree with that. I like rounder. I like a little bit more voluptuous, if we can use that word, in the Marilyn Monroe type of vein. But you know what? I think those are solid picks, David. We'll see if your girl can take that all, or if Miss Mahoy can find her way in there. She's been pretty busy this year, and Bianca Berry also. She hits a lot of shows, but all those girls are put together very well. Figure, only one name standing out to me in this lineup. You got to go with the former Tampa champ, a top 5 Olympian, the one and only Titone.
Titone's got to be the favorite coming in. We look at her track record as far as wins and in any show she enters. I mean, she's pretty much dominated shows not called the Olympia. The one person I think you really have to look out for, been all over the internet, probably one of the craziest V-tapers we've seen since Latoya Watts, Shanique Grant. And I believe she's only 19 or 20 years old. The big question that I have with Shanique is her nobody can, you can't say enough about her V-taper. In some of her pictures, her delts look like they might just be a little bit too overpowering, which is, really what really makes that V-taper. But I think she's going to come out, and I think she's going to give Ann a run for her money. Like I said, when you get her on stage next to the rest of the girls, she might be a little bit too big up top. We all know everybody looks good in pictures by yourself, but until you throw them in the lineup, you never really know what you're going to see. I got to agree with you on Ann as far as being a favorite, but I think Shanique might surprise a lot of people.
Shanique Grant, 19. Your shoes are 19 years old.
Yeah, they are. My socks, and I haven't changed them. Something stinks here.
How about that, though? I mean, 19, 20 years old, to be able to get to the IFBB pros at that age with that type of physique, and if you haven't seen her physique, I'm sure we can get a picture posted up. Listen, Ann's got a crazy V-taper. She's got a tiny waist. This girl's waist is 2 inches smaller than Ann's. I mean, it's that crazy. And like you say, the delts, maybe overpowering. I don't know. We'll see when she gets on stage. But you talk about your veterans and your youngsters coming up here.
Yeah, on the other hand, I mean, a lot of it is obviously natural genetics, and at 19, it's, Cody Montgomery's an exception, but you wouldn't get a bodybuilder, being a top-class guy at 19. As far as Anne's concerned, Ann Titone, the good thing if she does win, and she's got to be the favourite, is it'll be a hell of a night in the bar with her on Saturday night, because she likes to party, and if she's a winner, that's the table to be on. Well,
she ain't going to be partying too much because the Olympia, like I say, is 6 weeks away, and she's definitely going to be a front runner into there, especially if she has a really good showing here. We talk about strategy all the time, David, and that type of thing. Listen, she's the highest ranking person here. She should win the show, but all that. Sometimes what's on paper isn't what transpires on stage. Could this be a mistake strategically if she were to lose the show?
I know I've talked with Jack, her husband, Jack Titone, a little bit. I think she's dealt with a little bit of a leg injury or something along those lines. That's kind of, pushed off her competition. The pictures that I've seen of Ann so far, there's not a lot, floating around online, but she looks like whatever issues she may or may not have had have been completely resolved. Now, we only know there's only a handful of shows left before going into the Olympia. If she doesn't get a win here, I think we'll probably see her again. But,
she's already qualified, so she doesn't actually need to win. She's already qualified from the Olympia, so that's why I was asking. She doesn't need to do the show, Peter, but she just is doing the show. But can that backfire?
Well, it could be, like I said before, if you peak once a year you learn something. If you do it 2 or 3 times a year, you learn something 2 or 3 times a year, good or bad. So maybe this is a dry run. No pun intended.
Very nice, sir. Very nice.
So, let's be honest. She's very experienced. Jack's in a corner. Whatever the reason is, it'll be a good reason she's doing this show.
See if the Jack can beat the ace. It's in the deck. Huh? Come on, David. Not bad. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're here all weekend. All right, fitness. Well represented here. It's all we hear. Fitness is dying. Fitness is dying. I don't know. I saw 15 names on that list of fitness girls and some top names in there. So I got to give it to the girls, man. They're out. They're representing. And names like Whitney Jones are out there, and Shannon Seaman, and then some of the favorites that I've seen, Christine Duba.
Yeah, I think fitness is going to be wide open. As we know, 2/3 of the fitness judging is done on the routines. So even though that you have favorites for some of the shows, anything can happen. Well, with this particular show, we don't have a standout favorite like a Rael Graber or a Fiona Harris or Oksana or whatever. We don't necessarily have a standout favorite. So it really is going to come down to who brings their A game for the performance. And I think the girls know that too. So you're going to see them really all giving everything they got. And from a fan standpoint, I think everybody will agree fitness is one of the most entertaining parts of the whole show. We actually get to see people up there doing crazy stuff. You're tilting the head half the time wondering how they even pull that off. So it'll be a good fitness round as always here in Tampa.
I love fitness. I really do. I love starting the show with it, and we usually do for a few different reasons. But one, it kind of jump starts the show, Peter. And I like to see the athleticism on stage, like David said. There's some crazy moves out there, man. You got to give it up for these girls.
Yeah, energizes the whole thing. To be honest, where you see a succession of classes and you can get a bit bleary-eyed, but the fitness girls, it's pure entertainment, and you watch. You put the pad down and you watch. And some of the things they do, and that they keep on raising the bar, all of them, And it is I think if you brought anybody in from outside, member of the public, and sat them through a show, they'd say, "Oh, I love the fitness girls." Yeah.
All right. Well, our final 2 classes, men's physique, also representing well here, and women's bodybuilding, of course, both in the lineup. So he's pretty much got them all here. So it's going to be a good show. Men's physique, again, I saw a few standout names in there. Most notably, our man Javon Walker finally got his pro card, and he's in.
Yeah, Javon got his pro card at Team Universe. He's been trying not that long to get a pro card, obviously. For the people not familiar with Javon, professional football player for the Packers, one of the teams played professional baseball. This is his 3rd professional sport. I think he's going to have his hands full. Not a lot of really big names in the men's physique lineup. We have, if I had to pick favorites, Tori Woodward, I think he'll do very well. Brandon Hendrickson, I think is going to be up there. So again, none of your real heavy hitters as far as men's physique. Mike something, I don't know.
That guy with the hair, with the trunks. Guy with the think.
Mike Balon, maybe. He should do well. And then in women's bodybuilding, I think it'll be good. I think Alana Shipp, 4th place at last year's Olympia. She's like female version of Dexter. I think if I had to pick a favorite, it'll probably be her. Isabella Terrell, we saw in Chicago, not quite enough. Probably one of the craziest V-tapers I've ever seen in a women's bodybuilding.
She's got some lines.
Yeah, if she can really, she had a month from Chicago to tweak her conditioning. So, if she really nails it, she could be a front runner. But I think in women's bodybuilding, I'm gonna have to go with Alana Shipp.
I think Alana Shipp is a good bet. Peter, she's almost like a throwback when you look at the women's bodybuilding from 12, 15 years ago. She kind of has that nice shape. I think the Dexter analogy is a good one, kind of a female version of Dexter, kind of compact but put together very nice.
Yeah, she's got a really pleasing physique and it flows. And the women's physique, again, that's a class that really impressed me the last 2 or 3 years. Not just the way they look, but the posing is so good and thought out. The guys could take a lesson from what they're doing. You watch a lineup, and out of 12, there's maybe 10 great routines. They really are performing and entertaining, and good luck to them all.
Well, the Women's bodybuilding, no bodybuilding at the Olympia this year for the ladies, but they do have the Rising Phoenix Championships being put on by our good friend Tim Gardner, and of course Wings of Strength that's coming up very soon, actually August 22nd in San Antonio. So obviously this is going to be one of the last shots for them to qualify for that. So we wish all the athletes good luck here, but that's going to bring things to a close. Of course, we'll be around all weekend long with up-to-date coverage, play-by-play, being down in the pit with the guys. And, of course, we'll be back after the prejudging with our thoughts, and we'll see how close we are to our predictions. That's going to wrap things up here in Tampa. For David and Peter, this is Bob Chick signing off.